You train hard, but you still fade at 30 to 35 kilometers. The problem is not willpower, it's fuel timing and hydration. What if you could run faster without more training? What if you used carbs and fluids smarter? I ran a 35 kilometers marathon test, full race plan, real data. I tried my new hydration plan for the first time and it was amazing. Want the exact plan you can copy today? Stay with me. You will get the numbers and the why. Let's go! Let's start with nutrition. Scientific consensus for marathon runners is to aim at 60 to 90 grams of carbs per hour during the race. Some research suggests elite runners could benefit from up to 120 grams per hour, but it requires extensive gut training. Take marathon legend Eliud Kipchoge. He's reported to ingest more than 100 grams per hour in both his break-into attempts in 2017 and 2019, using Maurten's gels. During marathon pace running, your body oxidize carbohydrates at a very high rate. Muscle glycogen depletion is the primary cause of fatigue in marathon, often occurring around 90 to 120 minutes in the race. Consuming carbohydrates during the race delivers additional substrate to maintain high oxidation rates as your stored glycogen diminishes. The key mechanism involves two different intestinal transporters. Sodium glucose ligand transporter 1 actively transport glucose and galactose using the sodium gradient created by your cell's energy pumps. This system saturates at approximately 60 grams of carbs per hour. Glucose transporter 5 passively transports glucose via facilitated diffusion, independent of sodium. This system can handle approximately 30 grams per hour. By providing both glucose and fructose together, you utilize both transport systems simultaneously, doubling your absorption capacity. The optimal ratio appears to be 1 to 0.8 glucose versus fructose, which maximizes absorption. A 2025 study found that marathon runners who met the 60 to 90 grams per hour were significantly more likely to finish sub 3 hours compared to those who underfueled. What about my plan? My goal is to run a sub 2:45 marathon in Valencia. The pace is going to be about 3 minutes and 50 seconds per kilometer. I will be running at the maximum of my abilities at the edge of zone 3, trying to avoid going into zone 4. My carb consumption is extremely high. I need fuel. A lot. My plan is to ingest 102 grams of carbs per hour. I'm using the best gels in the market, the Maurten Hydrogel. I will get a gel every 5 kilometers throughout the entire race, using different gels. Kilometer 5, gel 160, which contains 40 grams of carbs. Kilometer 10, again 40 grams of carbs. Kilometer 15, gel 100 with 25 grams of carbs plus 100 milligrams of caffeine. And then the plan repeats. 20 kilometer gel 160, 25 kilometer gel 160, 30 kilometers gel 100 plus caffeine, 35 kilometers gel 160, and 40 kilometers, 2 kilometers to the finish line, another gel 100 plus caffeine. Total, 275 grams of carbs, 1,100 calories, 102 grams of carbs per hour, 408 calories per hour. Is it doable? Absolutely yes. At the Milan Marathon last April 2025, I ran 2 hours and 46 minutes and I was ingesting a gel every 4 kilometers. How do I manage to get such a high rate of carbs per hour without any gut issues? Two key factors. One, gut training. Every time I do a Sunday long run, 25 kilometers or more, I always use the same gel plan I will be using during the race, every single time. Second, which gels to use. My suggestion, look at what the top runners are using. Kipchoge, Maurten. Kiptum, Maurten. I find them fantastic and I never had gut issues with them. Now, hydration. Probably the most underrated factor, at least for me until now. Drinking electrolytes regularly throughout the race, in the right amount, will completely change the way your legs sustain the marathon effort. Scientific consensus is to drink 400 to 800 millimeters of water per hour and 300 to 700 milligrams of sodium per hour. The large range is because the amount needed varies dramatically based on sweat rate, external conditions, and genetics. When you sweat, you lose sodium and water. The sodium concentration in your sweat is driven by genetics. The water loss is also influenced by genetics and external conditions, temperature, etc. Sodium is critical to maintain fluid balance, support nerves and muscle functions, prevent muscle cramps, and also facilitate carbs absorption. Because the SGLT1 transporter we discussed before requires sodium to transport glucose across the intestinal membrane. During exercise, you can lose 1 to 2 liters of sweat per hour, and each liter contains from 500 to 1500 milligrams of sodium, depending on your sweat composition. Without adequate replacement, your blood volume contracts, forcing your heart to work harder to maintain cardiac output. Your blood also becomes diluted if you drink just water, which can suppress your thirst drive and lead to further dehydration. Water is critical to avoid dehydration. When your net fluid deficit is greater than 2 to 3% of body mass, it increases perception of effort, raises core temperature, and reduces performance. My plan is to drink at least 1 liter of fluids and 1200 milligrams of sodium. It equates to 408 millimeters of water and 451 milligrams of sodium per hour. I will take with me a 500 millimeters flask filled with water and with a tub of Precision Hydration 1500. One tub contains 1500 milligrams of sodium per liter. I'm diluting it in 700 milliliters of water, but then I'm using only 500 millimeters. So the total sodium intake from the drink is 500 milligrams. The rest will come from 2 Precision Hydration tubs. Each tub contains 250 milligrams of sodium. The plan is the same as nutrition. Every 5 kilometers I refuel. 5 kilometers, 125 milliliters from the flask, 125 milligrams of sodium. 10 kilometers, same. 15 kilometers, same. 20 kilometers, same. After that, the flask is gone, and I will be drinking every 5 kilometers from the water stations 150 milliliters of plain water, but at kilometers 25 and 35, I will be using 1 tub each, 250 milligrams of sodium. My total sodium intake will be 1000 milligrams from the flask plus the tubs, plus an additional 216 milligrams that is coming from the gels, which contain sodium as well. To summarize, I eat and drink every 5 kilometers. Why am I taking this aggressive approach, sodium and water? Because I have evidence that this, for me, has been a limiting factor. April 2025, Milan Marathon. Yes, I did my personal best, but I got to the last few kilometers with very stiff legs and some muscle cramps I was able to loosen. It was a hot day, 25 plus degrees Celsius. September 2025, Lugano Half Marathon. Yes, I did my personal best, 1:17:29. I pushed really hard, but then for a week my legs were destroyed. This is not normal for a half marathon distance. It was a hot day again, 20 plus degrees Celsius. This triggered an alarm. I need to take a different, structured approach to hydration. Because for me, it's a limiting factor. I also had hydration as a bullet point in my strategic plan to get to the sub 2:45 marathon. Everything is connected. Is this plan realistic and doable? How will it impact performance? Let the 35-kilometer test and the data speak for itself. On the 26th of October, 6 weeks to the Valencia Marathon, I did the following test. 15 kilometers easy run in high zone 2, 13 kilometers tempo run in zone 3, 7 kilometers marathon pace. I didn't have breakfast, but I drank a Maurten 160 drink mix, which contains about 40 grams of carbs, plus 500 millimeters of water. I also weighted myself before and after the training to calculate my net fluid loss. It was a cold Zurich morning, overcast, 7 degrees Celsius. It was amazing. I rarely felt so strong, legs so fresh, till the end of the training. First leg, 15 kilometers at 4 minutes and 31 seconds per kilometer pace, 143 beats per minute. 15 kilometers done. Second leg, 13 kilometers, 3 minutes and 57 seconds per kilometer pace, 159 beats per minute. 357. I feel great. Third leg, 7 kilometers, marathon pace, 3 minutes and 47 seconds per kilometer pace, 166 beats per minute. And I also added a last kilometer all out at 3:35. 36 kilometers total. I even did 1K more because I was feeling great. Amazing training. The 7 kilometers at marathon pace, 3 minutes and 47 seconds per kilometer. Incredible. Even the day after, the legs were not hurting at all. Top training. Let's have a look at the data for hydration and nutrition. I followed the plan except for the 35 kilometers where I didn't take gel or fluids because I was at the end of the effort. Because of it, you will see that the total and the per hour calculations are a bit different versus the marathon plan because I'm missing that 35 kilometers gel. Total intakes, 213 grams of carbs, 950 milligrams of sodium. Fluids consumed, 900 milliliters. 500 from the flask water plus precision hydration mix and 400 plain water plus a tub. If you take it per hour, 86 grams of carbs per hour, 382 milligrams of sodium per hour. And now the interesting part. I lost 1.8 kilos, 2.55% of body mass. Sweat rate about 1 liter per hour. It's on the high end of the normal range, considering the cold weather of the day. This is exactly why hydration for me was a limiting factor. I sweat a lot, even in cold conditions, and Valencia will not be cold for sure. I love when your feelings, your perception, and the data match perfectly. The plan is perfect for me. The only thing I will need to adjust is the total amount of fluid intake if the temperature will be higher than 10 degrees. Zero gut issues, I even like the salty water. What's next? I still need to decide if I will use the belt of the vest to carry everything. The belt from Compress Sport is great, but it's not easy to take in and out of the flask. It's something I will check in 2 weeks in the next test, 37 kilometers. Valencia Marathon, 7th of December 2025, sub 2:45. Let's go!